This is Revolution Radio, bringing Northampton together. That was Gigi, and glad you came. And great to be joined in the studio by the leader of West Northamptonshire Council, Jonathan Nunn. Good morning.
Morning, Chris. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, so it's a lovely rainy morning here in Northampton Town Centre, and we've got lots to talk about. If you have any questions that you'd like to put to Jonathan directly, this is your opportunity to have your say, to speak to the council leader and just find out some answers to the things that are important to you in Northampton and Northamptonshire at the moment. So whatever it is that's on your mind, you can get in touch with us in a number of ways. You can contact the studio directly through the normal phone numbers, and the details are on our website, revolutionradio.com. You can also put your message on our Facebook page. We've posted on there that that you can leave your messages as a comment on the post, and then we will put it to Jonathan. So I think one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about at the moment is the Ofsted report into the Children's Trust fostering service at the council, and that was obviously a cause for concern for a lot of people. And I know there's going to be another inspection in April, so not long to make changes. What's your kind of take on this?
Yeah, we were just naturally really disappointed, really disappointed. There's 1,200 young children in the care of the Children's Trust. It's a shared organisation which both North Northampton Council and West Northampton Council, if you like, contract. And it was set up by the government to take it away from council control back in the days of the county council, feeling that was the best way to improve what was definitely a failing service at the time. We have seen improvement. So a little while ago, Ofsted came in and they reviewed the whole service, not just the fostering, but all the different elements of the service. And they felt the improvement was such to upgrade. They have 4 gradings. It was previously graded as inadequate, and they chose to upgrade it to requires improvement. Now, they did, as part of that, look at fostering, but that was the overall rating. However, this sort of deeper look that they've done into fostering has not been good, and it's shown it to be much poorer than we had hoped, and that's really disappointing. I think there are a number of urgent things that are going on. So there was already an action plan to improve foster care. We've taken a good look at that because actually we don't think that the Trust's action plan was showed quite as much urgency as we felt it should. So that's happened. Of course, Ofsted, when they were in, I don't know, a month or so ago now, they gave some initial verbal feedback before they produced anything written, and those actions have already been implemented too. So we've just got to see it improve. We've made a complete commitment to work with the Trust. It is a slightly distanced relationship, which we're less comfortable with. We think the better way of doing this is to work collaboratively together. That's the 2 councils. And not in a critical way. We've got to get alongside and support them, but challenge them. And hopefully we'll see some improvements come through very soon. But the number of concerns here, of course, Chris, one, paramount, is the safety of children in their care. There's been nothing found to suggest that there was a lack of safety. However, the service is poor. So that means that the life chances we give young people is not as good as it could be. The progress that they might make is not as good as they could be. And of course, therefore, the likely contribution they make to our society as they get older is not only poorer for them, but poorer for the rest of us too. So that's not good. The second part of it with foster caring is the foster carers themselves, who work incredibly hard in a really challenging, difficult situation. When they kindly volunteer and come forward, we naturally give them children who have had often the most traumatic of backgrounds. And if those who have their own children naturally feel it's hard to bring up children, some of the issues that the foster children, those in our care, have been through are so dramatic that it makes life really hard to be a foster carer. You'll be so incredibly patient. And so I have 2 concerns, primarily the children, but secondly, that we need to look after foster carers better. I think that's what it says.
Do you think there's any sort of fundamental root causes of this, or is this just a general improvement that's needed across the board?
Yeah, in terms of foster care, I mean, there are a bunch of very specific things that are in the action plan that need to be done. I think probably we'd say that generally the ship is turning. That's the whole Children's Trust, and Ofsted evidenced that, and they said some very complimentary things overall about the service last time they were in. One of the key things that they said is that they felt before that not only was improvement evident, but it seemed as though there was a really clear indication of what else needed to be done. And I think what they were saying there is it's one thing solving a problem, but if you have a clear view of what needs to be done to continue to correct it, that's equally good. So that's how they judged it. I don't think they feel at all that when they look more closely at the foster care, that the action plans that were in place were quite as good as they really should have been, and that there was such a clear view over it. But as I say, that's being urgently corrected. It already was after Ofsted's comments. As soon as we had clarity over the full letter, myself and Jason Smithers, who's the leader of the council in the north, we urgently met with all of the Trust's senior leadership, chief executive, chair. They have a chair of their trust. We met with him in that meeting too, all of their senior staff, our chief executive, senior directors and others, and it was an absolute top priority. We're meeting again soon, and this will be a regular occurrence just as we monitor the progress. That's a closer relationship than the government originally envisaged with the Trust. They had envisaged quite an arm's length operation, and they had put restrictions in place for how frequently we might meet them, and specific boards or improvement boards that we might meet them. I'm grateful to the Trust who have agreed to go beyond that in the interim and have these other meetings. They're not formal public meetings like some of the others, but I think if we work together, we can make the progress we need to show.
So it sounds like you've got confidence in the members of the board of the Trust that they are doing all that they can. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I think we have some concern that perhaps the action plan that was previously in place to improve the Trust was not quite as challenged and focused as it might have been. In other words, you envisage an action plan that's like a spreadsheet with a whole bunch of actions, and then you might rate them. These days, often people may have seen this, where you rate things red, amber, or green, depending on how good they are. If you think something's really on track, you call it a green. If you've got some concerns, an amber, and a red if you're really concerned. And we think they were over-optimistic, so we've examined those with them and re-rated many of those, plus added further actions. I think having seen this, it's been a little bit of a shock to all of us, and indeed I think that includes the Trust Board, who I think will be far more critical in examining the finer detail.
Fantastic. Okay, well, if you've got anything else that you'd like to talk about today with Jonathan Nunn, we have the leader of West Northamptonshire Council with us live in the studio today on Revolution Radio, so get in touch. And we've talked about a few different things already today, and one of the things that's probably one of the best news stories that's come out over the last couple of weeks is the leisure centres across West Northamptonshire, 4 of them that are in your patch, have been given £7 million as part of the government's decarbonisation scheme to update their facilities and make them a little bit more green, a little bit more eco-friendly. Yeah. So that's great news, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely thrilled, Chris. Absolutely thrilled. It's surprising how much electricity, how much energy leisure centres use, particularly swimming pools. Heating up swimming pools is a really energy-hungry process. And of course, with the recent increase in costs, become even more aware of how important it is to reduce that. Alongside that, we've got a sustainability program running, which is aiming to get us down to a net zero. So it's an important part of that. But just coming back to the swimming pools specifically, our swimming pools are run, some of them by private operators, some of them, like here in Northampton where we are, by a leisure trust. But however you're doing it, it is effectively, it's public money, isn't it? So you've got to be efficient with public money. We've heard of operators who have felt the need to turn the temperature down on pools, which is really probably not something you want to do. You want to encourage people to come swimming. It's a really healthy thing to do.
It shouldn't be an unpleasant experience.
No, it wants to be reasonably pleasurable, doesn't it? At the other end, you wouldn't want operators to start putting up the cost at the moment. Health and well-being, we're acutely aware of how important it is. You can take your family swimming or whatever. We think that's really important. So you wouldn't want to put the costs up to make them prohibitive. And at the same time, obviously burning all the energy, whether it's electricity or whatever it is, it's carbon, it's unsustainable. So we were really thrilled. The money the government have given us is for those leisure centres that are in the old south part of our area and the Daventry part of our area. This is something we were already onto in Northampton, partly I think because perhaps the age of our centres like Danes Camp and the Mounts, I think we knew that the equipment needed replacement. It was getting to the end of its life, and it was tremendously costly to do it. So no, we're really thrilled about that. I think some of this is we got quite a good story on sustainability. locally. We've got a sustainability strategy. It's about three types of sustainability. It is about environmental sustainability, but it's also about economic and social sustainability. Obviously, a lot of what the council does is about economic and social sustainability, from our anti-poverty strategy that we're delivering now with all of the voluntary sector and other partners, all the way to economic development, trying to attract quality jobs into the area. We'll say quality. We're not just chasing jobs, we chase quality jobs. That's our mission round here. But on the environmental one, we've done well. The councils that came together for West Northants were at different stages, but we've got a team now, sustainability team. We've got a staff network, so many of our 3,000 staff are more actively involved in sustainability. We've got about 70 major actions. We're aiming not just for carbon neutral, but we're amongst the top most ambitious councils in the country, having joined a thing called UK 100.
Okay.
And that's if you like, a group that gives us guidance, holds us to account. But in order to be part of that group, we had to go for what's called a net zero target, which is a broad range of emissions, not just carbon, and a tougher target. So we're going for a net zero target of our council to achieve net zero by 2030.
Wow.
That's the council's own emissions. That's going to be quite challenging.
So does that include everything like council vehicles and all of the buildings and the staff and
all of those?
Everything.
Everything that is the council. Yeah. But the next one's even more scary because after that 2030 target, the 2045 target is for the whole of the West Northants area to be net zero. And that's really, really, really scary, if I'm honest. Do you know?
And I guess that's something you're going to need the whole community to get involved with,
entirely.
and we all take responsibility for that as well.
Entirely. And actually, as I sit here now, we've talked about getting together regularly to keep people updated. I'd really love, actually, to make that one specific one that I think would be really important, because we have a lot of ideas of what people can do. I know you've got other things that you want to move on to onto today, but I think it is really important. And haven't we seen a change, really, to our attitudes? I think it doesn't seem so long ago that there were a smaller bunch of people who were really focused on the environment. There were those of us then who started to catch on to the message and understand that, and having always been concerned, well, how on earth can we continue to burn the world's resources in the way
I
that
think
we
there's
have?
been a number of factors. I think the younger people are getting older, and the people that are going to be affected by this are now voting and making their voices heard, and people are taking them more seriously. And I think also the lockdown has helped people realise that nothing's set in stone, and you can find new ways of doing things. You can work from home and save energy that way.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, our whole attitudes did change on lockdown, didn't they? I mean, first of all, for many of us, we used that valuable hour we were allowed to get out to walk in nature, be it the country park, perhaps Abingdon Park, or in a more rural area, wherever it was, and you stopped and appreciated things in a whole different way. I think we did see how the air quality improved as a result of us all not using our cars and so on. Yeah, so one
and
way
I think
that
everyone
it's a
sort of
far
slowed
bigger
down a
agenda.
bit, didn't they? There was less pressure to get around quickly, and people had a bit more time, and just the whole pace of life seemed to change a bit. And I think people are going to think back to it obviously there were a lot of awful things as well during the pandemic, but there'll be a bit of a rose-tinted view of that time that everybody just kind of stopped for a bit and took the time to enjoy going for nice walks and spending more time with their family.
It certainly changed attitudes, didn't it? It changed attitude around, coming back to what I said about pools, health and well-being suddenly became a lot more important to many of us who had perhaps lost sight of the importance of it. Yeah, I think all these things are right. And that's why we are finding, when we talk about our sustainability strategy, people are really keen to engage, actually. People really are. Everybody seems to be on board with what we're doing. And the interesting thing as well is there's increasing correlation between the sort of economic, social and environmental sustainability. One simple example, we've put in our budget for the coming year to double the amount of solar panels on the roof of Angel Square, which is our head office building. And we've got lots of other solar projects scheduled for other buildings as well. And that'll pay for itself over a relatively short period of time, particularly with energy costs, if they continue to be high. So not only are we reducing the carbon, but at the same time we're reducing the ongoing costs to the taxpayer, just to keep our offices operating. So the decarbonisation of the pools, really exciting. We're thrilled to have got the money and crack on and get that done.
Fantastic. Well, it's great that you're inspiring us all with your green credentials for us all to do something. But solar panels are very expensive as the initial outlays, particularly if you're not using that much electricity yourself. So one of the things that's come in on our social media and people have been asking questions about is obviously people are very concerned at the moment following the death of Fred Shand in Kingsthorpe last week, and 2 teenage boys have been charged with the murder and appeared at Northampton Crown Court earlier this week. He was stabbed at just after 3:30 on Wednesday last week near the Cock Hotel, and died as a result of that. And I think a lot of people can be very worried about the state of the community, really, and the fact that there's obviously young people carrying knives around and using them, and this is what can happen. And I know obviously the council aren't directly responsible for policing the streets, but it is something that we need to be aware of as a community, and the council has some sort of responsibility to make sure that initiatives are taking place to try and improve the way that things are. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, so horrible, isn't it horrible when any life gets taken away, it's lost, most particularly when it's forcibly taken away, and then most particularly when it's somebody so young, really, with their life ahead of them. Obviously, there's been arrests and so on, and I don't know the ins and outs of all that. Who knows? So we probably shouldn't talk so much about that. No idea. But everybody, whatever the circumstances, whoever did what, it's just horrible, and it's simply that. And not only is it so horrible for the loss of that young person, their direct family, school friends and others, well, actually it affects all of us in terms of how we feel about the world we live in and everything else, doesn't it, really? So it's absolutely awful. I suppose for our partners, and as a council, whilst it's a police matter, as a council, of course, we care about everything which is good or bad to our local residents in the community, really. We need to try and make the community a good place. So yes, we're a part of this. One thing I do know is in terms of what was the council involved in the reaction. We work with we would term partners, other organisations to get some information together to try and support young people in the best way that we can. And we're lucky here in this town. We have got things like the Free to Talk service, which is something for young people to be able to help with their problems or attend things like youth clubs and so on. We've also got the Lowdown, which is a charitable organisation where young people who are struggling really, really difficult and challenging circumstances can, in confidence, discuss it through with a professional, somebody who can give them support and so on. And so it was this kind of information that we put together. There are also things called wellbeing cafes that are being run county-wide, so we provided the young people and the schools with information there, or indeed how they can report or find out more about knife crime. And I suppose we've run a number of things related to this sort of thing. So we had the Knife Angel, you'll remember, in Northampton. When was that? That was probably coming up for a year ago, wasn't it? I suppose it was late last year, late spring, summertime, I suppose. So we had that, alongside which there was a big campaign on the dangers of knife crime, and we have a variety of other initiatives that we get involved in. I think at a time like this, that's our sort of role, really. I wonder if I look back at, I don't know whether life has become more challenging for young people. I think we felt we had our own difficulties when I was young, but the pressure that's on young people now, and includes social media in that, and all of these other things, it's a very challenging world. But it's a fast moving world. When I grew up, people kind of thought of the professions, do I want to be a this, that or the other? That world has changed so dramatically, and it moves so fast, and there are so many things that I think put more and more pressure on young people. I think that's why we've seen, I mentioned the Lowdown, for example, one of a number of excellent services that support young people. I think they've seen huge growth in demand for the need for their services, and that's really worrying, isn't it? That's really worrying, some of which has come out of the follow-on from COVID, hasn't it, that people have found very, very challenging. But yeah, I suppose so to come back to the main point, really, our role has been a bit of a community support role. The police will continue to do what they do quite rightly, but meantime, our very best wishes, our sympathies go out to the family and all the friends of the young man who was sadly taken in that way. I
think sometimes something like this can make a difference, because people realise the consequences of things. And children are always going to argue about things. There's always going to be disagreements in playgrounds and outside of school. It's just a lot more serious when knives are involved, obviously.
I think it is, isn't it? And I think one of the big messages about knife crime is if you carry a knife, I think it's more likely to be used against you. It just ups the ante and ups the stakes. It doesn't make you safer. It makes you more at risk, frankly. I can understand, but I think I can empathise to some extent with the feelings of being safe or feelings of looking big, looking clever, whatever it might be that cause people to carry knives. It's not clever. It's really not clever.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we've got time for another little bit of conversation before 12 o'clock. So if there's something that you'd like us to be talking about, then please do get in touch. You can get in touch via the website revolutionradio.com or through our social media. There's a post on our Facebook page where you can leave your comments right now. Sarah Larson on Revolution Radio and Can't Tame Her. Don't forget, Indy is here with Eastern European Focus from 1 o'clock this afternoon. And also just want to say happy Ramadan to all of our Muslim listeners and everybody that is celebrating Ramadan at the moment. And we've got Councillor Jonathan Nunn with us from West Northamptonshire Council. And obviously very important for the council to embrace all of the diversity in the community and celebrate with all of the different faiths, everything that's going on. And as well as Ramadan, obviously we're looking forward to the coronation coming up soon in May. And lots of stuff planned for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a lot. I think you're right. Actually, we're lucky. I always thought Northampton, and now West Northants, wide cultural sort of mix, particularly here in Northampton. When I got more and more involved in the borough council as I did, really love the fact you've got different faiths and different celebrations going on throughout the year. Diwali is always one of the big ones as well, isn't it? That lights the town up. But yeah, I guess something really, really special, something that. In future years we will tell our grandchildren we were at, which is the coronation of the king. Fantastic, and there's lots going on nationally. We've got a few things going on locally too. Of course, the big day is the 6th of May. One of the best things locally to look forward to is a thing we're calling the Big Lunch, which is on the 8th of March, happening all over the country. We are specifically doing something locally at Delapre Abbey, which is a bit of a centre for our various different celebrations. A lot of people are closing their streets for street parties. If you need help with that, if you need regulation, the stopping of the traffic and all that kind of thing, get in touch with us. We can sort that out really easily.
Is it quite an easy process then? Because you imagine there's a lot of paperwork with closing a street, but...
There is, and to some extent, often it's been a pretty difficult process to engage with, because we've had a little bit of experience of it with the Jubilee and so on. So we can do it in a relatively cost-effective way. I think possibly on this occasion we're not charging at all for any of those costs, and of course also it may be that your parish council can help guide you on that as well. We now in West Northants we have a parish or a town council covering everybody, so they're organising lots of local celebrations. I think
so. It'll be great to see lots of street parties and tables down the middle of people's roads and the whole community coming together and lots of bunting and stuff. It'll be a great thing for people to remember and tell the kids about.
I think it will. Coming back to that, on our last item, we were talking about community and how communities can be shocked by bad things. I think we have also learned how communities can enjoy celebrations in recent years, haven't we? But let's hope this will be another fantastic one. There's something interesting as well that the Lord Lieutenant is running, where it's an opportunity to nominate what they're calling coronation champions. Okay. And largely this is aimed at the unsung heroes who do community things, possibly unnoticed. And there's a number of ways you can look for that. But if you looked on our website, we have a coronation page, and there's click the link to nominate somebody who you think goes above and beyond as a coronation champion. We've also got an event listing, so if you're running an event in your village or your town and you want to try and make people aware, we've got a list of everything that's going on, or indeed if you want to look at what's going on and what can you attend in your local area, do. So it's coronation. It's on the front page of the www.westnorthants.gov.uk webpage.
Brilliant. And I think we've also got a link there from the news section of our own website, so you can find it there.
Brilliant.
Obviously, everything that is listed on there will include in our What's On guide as well, so people know what's happening with all of the different celebrations locally. But it sounds like it's going to be an amazing couple of days, and lots of celebrations, kind of like the Jubilee again, but with that kind of a different take on it, because it's
I think so.
coronation.
Yeah, I think so. We're all looking forward to it, aren't we? Extra bank holiday. Real good, feel good about the thing. Yeah, it's great.
Can't go wrong with an extra bank holiday.
You probably can't.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining me again today.
It's always a pleasure, Chris.
Always fun. And if you do have any questions for Jonathan, then he will be back again next month. So you can leave your questions on the website or on our social media, and we will put them to Jonathan. But yeah, good luck with the rest of the month, and we will see you next month.
Thanks, Chris. Always been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.